There's a lot of fun ways to play Planetside 2, which I think are often ignored because people like to play on autopilot. I'll just list out some simple ones right now. One of my favourite things to do is if people are running up a hill, say on the Crown, to pull an ant, and you know that costs 100 nanites if you've got ASP 100 and you've got the outfit discount. Yeah, 100 nanites for an ant. You can just pull like 7 ants in a row and just run people over. And to me, that's really satisfying because then when the ant's about to die, you can jump out and get even more kills, see what kind of kill streak you can get on. It's just like a fun, kind of like degen way to play the game. There's a lot of other ones as well. One of the things that I've really been enjoying doing, especially over the last year, is getting at least to an okay level at air to ground, right? Because I complain a lot about air to ground. I'm like, oh, I should get nerfed. It's not really that fun to deal with on the receiving end of it. But pragmatically, selfishly, you know, it's something that you may want to try doing just because it is fun to do if you're the person doing it, especially because of the skill ceiling associated with it. Even getting to like, you know, a 5 out of 10, a 6 out of 10 in terms of skill with an air to ground ESF to the point where you can get a few kills before you ejection seat out. You know, that's actually really fun to kind of get decent at. And it definitely does add some longevity to your gameplay, you know, before you start to do the same thing over and over again, rather monotonously, like the Casino Addict, which just pulls down on the lever to spin again. You know, they're not really doing anything new, and I think that's what a lot of people fall into with Planetside 2. So there is some other ones that I quickly wanted to go over. One of them for me is starting to play Light Assault a bit more. I think it's actually pretty good to play Light Assault if, say, for example, you're attacking a base, there's no air to ground around, which is going to kill you if you go on the roof, and say the opposition's stuck outside of a building. If you go on top of that building, Light Assault actually can be pretty fun and enjoyable to do. Likewise, things like bolt sniping and getting into trying to get even slightly good at bolting with a sniper. Stalker Infiltrator as well is one of the things that I've been trying to enjoy quite a bit recently. You know, this game isn't Splinter Cell. It's not really meant to be played in a stealthy way, but having a playstyle which actually does afford you to do that if you want to actually is fun. Again, with a suppressor on the Stalker Infiltrator, yeah, definitely something fun to try out. Also, in my opinion, the max is actually quite fun because you can realistically go on 15 kill streaks pretty easily. So if you do want to try out the max, I definitely would encourage it, especially with it now costing 350 nanites. You can just pull a throwaway max at any point. Again, if you're not tied to your ego and like, oh, I only want to play in this certain way because this is how the game should be, and instead pragmatically just see the game as how it is, I think you get a lot more mileage out of the game. Another thing that I've really been enjoying recently is with Infiltrator, you can get proximity mines. And when people are at the tunnels of the ascent, and they're all kind of like conglomerated in a small area, you can drop down with some proximity mines, throw them at, you know, 15, 20 enemies. And yeah, 10 of them will die. And it's, again, quite satisfying to see that kill feed once you respawn. Sometimes you get the occasional rage tail, which again, to me personally, I actually find quite fun. There's some others that I would love to add to this list, but currently aren't really that fun simply because of Rel's design choices, which again, I'm not going to go into massively here, but one of them is knives. A lot of the time in the past you could one-hit kill with a knife, which actually was fun and actually pretty balanced when you actually pragmatically looked at the statistics of knife players in terms of kills per minute or KD. It actually wasn't super easy to do. You know, even if you were a top knifer, you probably wouldn't be getting to even the top 5 in FISU. Maybe you would get there, but that's about it. You know, it would be very difficult to do any better than that as someone who played a knife within Planetside. Definitely a fun way to play the game that, again, has been nerfed and isn't currently viable because you can't one-hit kill. You have to stab people twice, which is just way too slow. Another thing that is fun that likewise I'm not currently doing, although I did like to do in like 2021, is harassers. You know, we can talk about not being able to repair from the third seat within harassers another time. That's not actually the reason that I think currently harassers aren't that fun personally. And again, I'm not trying to be mean here, but the Prowler and even the Vanguard alpha damage that you have now that applies to the harasser, you know, you can one-shot a harasser if you've got a top gunner. And that to me isn't very fun when you're on the receiving end of that. So for me personally right now, I'm not really using the harasser much. There's also a few things you can do if you ask your outfit leader nicely. You know, personally in our outfit, anyone that even joins the Discord gets access to do this. And I think even now, if you reach BR 100 within our outfit, you get access to Colossuses. And what I really encourage people to do is just do solo Colossus and pull 4 of them in a row if you want. Nobody cares. It's like a main battle tank. And yeah, playing the Colossus, especially as Vanu, is quite fun because you're suddenly able to do quite a lot with a Colossus that you otherwise can't do with a Mag Rider, and you can play very aggressive. Because if you get down to, say, 2000 HP, you can just deploy. And again, just doing that with some randoms, you know, in outfit voice chat, just say like, hey, does anyone want to come drive in my Colossus with me? Or just even doing it solo a lot of the time I'll do. You know, it's a fun way to play the game. There's also like weird niche loadouts, which I sometimes like using, which actually are still like pretty viable. Things like the Combat Medic with either the Tarum TR, the GD22 or the GR22, I don't remember, on NC, and then HV45 on Vanu. Running around with those on Medic is actually pretty fun because when you're aiming down the sights, you have additional strafe speed. And combining that with something like a fun loadout like Combat Sergeant and Carapace in combination can be like a fun way to play the game. And then you can even like pre-heal if you apply, I think it's called a Restoration Kit. And sometimes I'll just do that, again, for fun. It's a nice way to play the game. The Restoration Kits only cost 25 nanites, so it's something you can sustainably do if you don't use your nanites in any other way. So yeah, Carapace, Combat Sergeant with Restoration Kit and like a HV45, definitely a fun thing to explore, again with Flak. There's also some like other like outfit things you can do that aren't necessarily super fun because they're pretty underpowered, but can be nice to do as a novel experience once ever so often. Or alternately on Kotia, if that ever opens up again. Or alternately on the off-peak continent when you're not going to be against multiple vehicles in a row. What you can do is pull like 2 repair Sunderers, and then have, say, 1 gunner or 2 gunners in each repair Sunderer, and just drive around killing all the vehicles. And it's extremely effective if there aren't multiple vehicles shooting at you, especially if you can kind of toggle the damage between the 2 Sunderers by putting one in front and then the other in front once the other ones took damage, and kind of just toggle the damage like that. Yeah, you can realistically get quite far just doing that. There's also like repair galaxies in combination with liberators that you can do. Again, it's like something we've tried to do occasionally. It is pretty fun, it is pretty effective. We don't do it that often because of the amount of organizational capacity that it takes, and you do have to be a bit more serious, which doesn't really suit how I personally like to play the game. I like to play the game casually, and when you're trying to do something with cohesion, you know, trying to keep the repair galaxies together, coordinate where to go, keep the liberators at least somewhat close to the repair galaxies, all that is actually quite draining from like a leadership level. So for me personally, I don't do it that often, but it is fun to do, you know, once every 6 months, once a year. Another thing we will be trying probably once or twice once OSHA's updated and people actually play in OSHA, probably for like 1 or 2 days or maybe 1 or 2 weeks, assuming that it's not going to be an amazing update. But yeah, they're going to fix OSHA or try to fix it in a month or 2. Whenever that drops, we are going to do boat ops, and we're going to see if anyone else is in boats and try to engage with them. We as a group have had massive success with our boat ops when going against other groups with boats, because I know how to kind of organize like a lot of randoms at once. And I'll just spill the beans. What we would end up doing with our boat ops is I would always tell people to shoot the leftmost boat and then work their way right. And you know, when you get 30 people in a platoon to all actually shoot the same target, they actually go down quite fast, and it's very difficult to really fight against. So even like large groups just as big as us haven't really been able to take us down in boat ops. So again, that's like a fun way to play the game. It's a very niche thing. It's not something you can do very often. There are other like niche things that I did used to do that I don't do as often anymore. The Cobalt Ant. So that on the Ant, there's like this Cobalt gun that you can have. There's like anti-infantry. It used to do a lot more damage when it had a higher headshot multiplier. Now that that's been nerfed, Cobalt Ant isn't as strong, but it is still pretty good. Essentially, all you do is in a large 48 player fight, you drop a medium anvil, you pull the Ant, and then you and a gunner can just get in the Ant and gun down people. And then the great thing about it is because you got radar on, you know where everyone is all the time. And yeah, it can actually be pretty fun to do that. And also, again, if you're about to die, you can just run into the opposition, run a few people over, again, exit the Ants and get some more kills. Super degen way to play the game, but definitely something you can do if you want to try it out. In a similar vein, more recently, I've been getting into doing harassers with the PPA on the harasser. And you can just like get a gunner from your squad and just let them get a few kills, again, run people over inside of a base, you know, like War Decimir, for example. Those bases are pretty good for it. And yeah, the TR and the NC also have good like anti-infantry faction-specific guns that you can use. There are some other things that I've seen other outfits do that personally I haven't done because it's not necessarily something that I derive that much enjoyment out of, but for some people they like equipping a flash with a bunch of C4 attached and trying to blow up targets because they like to farm salt. Personally, I have no interest in this. I derive no pleasure from annoying my opposition, and so I don't generally do that, but it's something you can do if you want to, I guess. Now obviously it wouldn't be a zealous video if I didn't also mention tower farming, which you've seen in many of my videos. All you do is you pull a Valkyrie and then you drop onto a tower. Ideally what you try to do at the same time is do bowling, where you try to run over with your Valkyrie a max, or even just like a sniper sniping on the edge. It's just actually something fun to do whilst you're tower farming, and if you miss, it's just like, it doesn't really matter. It's not the end of the world, and it's just something, again, fun to do that I personally enjoy to do. It's a bit degen, but something you can try out if you want to. I have tried to extract every bit of value and fun from this game that I can. Over the last 3 years, I've created a massive outfit, and I've actually also enjoyed, and I do want to quickly talk about it, the administration part of leading an outfit actually is pretty fun, making sure that everyone has the correct rank, once they get to BR 100 or when they join the Discord, but also just seeing over time how outfits statistically changed based on how they are led and how people are given information. Within our large outfit, we have the largest infantry KD, and I think IVI score of any really large outfit within Planetside 2 and any faction server combo, from what I understand. And a lot of people used to chalk that down to us being on Cobalt Vanu, so yes, of course we have a higher infantry KD. And then CBMC came along and totally disproven that. I think they only recently surpassed 3EPG, or Zarg, whatever you want to call them. And yeah, that's been a bit of vindication for me as well, to really see that, yeah, I was definitely right on that, and really statistically see the difference between outfits that don't give their players a lot of training material and really funnel them into those training materials, and then compare those with outfits that don't have that. It's really interesting actually to see the difference, because it's easy for either side to think they're right, or even to have a proof of concept version of that that's implemented. That's one step, but actually seeing it through over the course of 3 years for me has actually been just something fun and enjoyable that I've liked looking at, once a month, once every 2 months, to see how our outfit's statistically performing relative to others has just been like an enjoyable thing to do. I know that on Vanu Cobalt for years we were at like 25% pop apparently or something, and now we're at like oftentimes higher pop than TR and NC. It's not always the case, but it is nice again to see how that's changed since we've come around. I don't know when that changed, maybe it was before us, I don't think it was. But yeah, it's just been nice doing all of that bureaucracy side. For me personally, I've found that quite fun to do for, a few hours a week. And as we kind of move on to Anvil Empires, and this is something I quickly wanted to say, I just want people to know, I have extracted every bit of value I can from Planetside 2. I have tried every part of the game. I have, even made videos, which a lot of people wouldn't want to do. They won't want to put themselves out there. A lot of people are afraid of criticism or being afraid of being seen wrong, and so they just won't bother to begin with, or they won't try. And that's a shame, because there's a lot of things that people can share that they just don't. But I've definitely tried to do my part within this community over the last 3 years. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that I've also tried to do, some of which have been successful, some of which haven't, but I can definitely say that the effort's been there. I don't know if Anvil Empires is going to be this channel's and our community's mainstay game after Planetside 2, or if we're going to stay in Planetside 2 for a bit longer. We are going to have a platoon leader that's going to take over from me. So in regards to Planetside 2, things will probably stay pretty similar to what they are now. I'll probably log in once every 2 or 3 weeks and join their op. Oh, also in regards to all of this as well, one last thing that I really enjoy to do is once every few weeks, just log in and try to get a super high KPM, like 2.5 KPM, top of Fisu, just like full degen, any method possible. A lot of these other players, they'll have super good aim, and they'll be Jaeger mains, and they'll have a lower KPM than me, just because they're doing kind of like the Bushido, heavy assault only, correct way of playing the game, and I just go along, being a degen, and get similar results with, less aim skill. And yeah, I just personally find that really fun. And this is a sandbox, so for me personally, that's really what I actually enjoy about the game. Exploiting weird niche things is something I personally find fun, rather than doing the same monotonous thing over and over again. There are some staples that I would traditionally go back to if I would find them particularly fun. Things like tower farming, I'd do for an hour or two a week. And maybe I played on the Cobalt Ant a bit too much in like 2021 when that was really strong. There is also one last thing I want to mention here in terms of fun if you are still watching, and that is public platoon leading. A lot of people have this copium that, yeah, I can lead, I just don't want to because I'm above that, because why would I want to lead randoms, casuals that don't know what they're doing? But being able to actually cohesively lead those players and have them all follow you, people that don't know you, nobody watches this channel that's a random casual that's level 50, or not many of them. And maybe one or two of them know who Zealous is from Cobalt Boys, the leader of the outfit. But the rest of them don't really care. They're all just randoms. And being able to have them actually cohesively follow you, for me, is actually an art and something I really enjoy to do, because there's a lot of systems that I've developed and methods that I've used in the past to really get good at public platoon leading. And going in once every month or two and public platoon leading and getting every single person without kicking a single one, getting them all to follow you is an art, a challenge, and something I've always enjoyed doing. Without anyone on Discord, just by myself for an hour on a Sunday or whatever. Just really fun to do. It's one of the things that to this day I still really enjoy about this game. I probably will always enjoy just logging in for an hour and just people being like, oh, Zealous is on one, he's pop dumping every base across the map. And not because we want to, but simply I'm trying to find the next fight to bring the entire platoon to. And sitting there starting your own fight, waiting 2 minutes, is that really worth it? And maybe it takes 30 seconds for the platoon to get there. It's not necessarily the most engaging of gameplay choices. And so yeah, pop dumping oftentimes is something that as a platoon, and I think this is similar with a lot of platoon leaders, they'll just pop dump coincidentally because that's just the most fun way for them selfishly to have fun. I think that's the same issue that Joint Combat has. Anyway, I don't want to have this as like a complaining video. It is meant to be about fun. I hope this has kind of woken people up in terms of like different ways of playing the game, gave you some ideas, something you want to try. Hope you have a wonderful week. It's been a pleasure as always. I'm out. GG. Bye-bye.